Democratic State Representative Lauren Ashley Simmons of Houston, thank you so much, and welcome to Eye on Politics.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. So, the Texas Education Agency is investigating more than 280 complaints against teachers after comments they made on social media about Charlie Kirk's assassination. And last week we saw that the commissioner of the TEA sent a letter to school districts, and you've criticized that. Why?
I did. I felt like it was an inappropriate use of his authority in this matter. Anytime a tragedy like this takes place where there's going to be, just a highly sensitive and polarized response that falls along a political spectrum, I think it would be really his job and in his best interest to do his best to turn the temperature down. And you know what, Jack, I have to, also offer. I'm a former union representative. I used to do this for a living. I represented teachers, and sometimes there would be instances where teachers would, make comments on Facebook, and they weren't necessarily violent, they weren't incendiary, they may be crass or inappropriate. And, we would have to make the case and say, look, this person is using their First Amendment rights that they're entitled to. They don't, that does not cut off because they're an employee of a school district. And, we would have to just be very honest about, like, yes, we can say that and admit that this is inappropriate. This may be uncomfortable, but it doesn't warrant a heavy-handed response. And I do believe that in this instance, that's just kind of where my line of thinking was when we, decided to draft that letter. And I stand by that decision to do that.
And one thing that we saw, the TEA commissioner in a statement to the news media on this week said there is a difference between comments made in poor taste and those that call for and incite further violence, the latter of which is clearly unacceptable. But he also went on to say that appeared to say that if there are any people that are deemed to have done that, that he's going to recommend that they have their teacher certifications suspended. So, what do you make of all this?
And see, I can respect him trying to clarify, and maybe he should have led with that because, of course, we don't want teachers in classrooms who are inciting violence. But again, there is a difference between language that we find crass or inappropriate in the expression of opinions that may not align with his political beliefs. And I think that was what I found kind of disgusting in this moment. A tragedy has taken place, right? And I'll be the first to say that I've been critical of Mike Morath's leadership of the agency. But, in my opinion, I've thought that he's done a pretty good job of kind of coming off as this apolitical bureaucrat. It did not feel like that's where he was coming from in this instance. It felt like he was, being very clear about where he aligned on this issue politically and was using his personal feelings about what happened to guide his judgment. And again, I just do not think that was a good use of his leadership. In times like this, it is really incumbent upon people who have a voice, who have authority, to turn the temperature down and let cooler heads prevail and not use this as an opportunity to serve as a distraction from, I think, the work that he should be doing as the leader of the agency, but also to be very understanding that this is a hot button issue where people are going to be very opinionated about it.
And
And it should be
what
applied fairly across the board. We didn't see the same response when George Floyd was murdered, in my opinion.
and were there teachers who made inappropriate comments about George Floyd's murder that were investigated at the time? Do you know?
Not that I know of, but again, social media is used broadly. We see it all over, and people are going to share opinions during election season, during times of tragedy, during times of things that are that grab national headlines. People get on social media, they get on Facebook, they get on Twitter, they get on Instagram, they make posts and they express themselves. And again, we have First Amendment rights. Is, sometimes better judgment can be used and maybe people not say inappropriate or incendiary things, absolutely. But again, as long as people, in my opinion, are not inciting violence, I do think that there is a line that, we should not cross. But at the same time, again, I do not think that Mike Morath was using that judgment. I think he was taking his personal feelings about this matter and using his authority to really intimidate teachers and school employees and create a chilling effect to the point where not only are the school employees themselves will be reluctant to express themselves, but it really puts a lot of pressure on superintendents, school administrators, and even school board trustees to maybe have to act and overreact when they receive those reports, because that's what's going to happen. You put something out like that, people are going to begin reporting anything that they think that they disagree with, and then because there's such a bright spotlight because of the nature of this incident, then again, people are going to feel forced to act, and that's not what we want. We don't want an overreaction. We want people to express themselves. We want people to feel like they have the right to do so. And again, it is incumbent upon leaders in moments like this to to turn the temperature down. And I just did not think that that's what Mike Morath was doing in this moment.
And while he may make a recommendation to the State Board of Education on a teacher's certification, it's still up to the individual school districts to make the decision on whether to fire a teacher. But you are saying that if there is a determination that a teacher was inciting further violence, that they should be fired.
I believe that, due process should take place. And I do believe that it is the teacher has the right to defend themselves and that language should be addressed. I do think that the school board or whatever process is in place by the school board should allow for that due process to take place. And ultimately, the decision that needs to be made should be made. But again, I just don't think that Mike Morath should write a letter that kind of gives this blanket oversimplification of what has happened and calling any language that he disagrees with or could be interpreted that way. Again, if a teacher is in front of a classroom inciting violence and encouraging students to go out and harm others, then absolutely that needs to be addressed and to the highest extent. But at the same time, a teacher simply expressing, and I think we saw that and this was on the university level with a letter that, in my opinion, did not come off that controversial. It was a person expressing their opinion that, we may or may not disagree with, but they weren't inciting violence at all. They were just kind of giving their opinion on the matter, and they were removed from their position. And I think this is kind of what we will continue to see because it's such a polarizing issue. And it's been amplified in such a way where we're kind of diverting from things that are truly violent, things that are truly causing harm, to just simply things that make us uncomfortable. And again, we have the First Amendment for a reason. It's about freedom of speech. It's not about things that make us uncomfortable. And I keep bringing up, the George Floyd murder because that was personal to me. He's from my community. He was from Third Ward. I went to high school with his nephews. And so to kind of, get online when that happened and see some of the really inappropriate things that were said by a lot of people, some of them school employees, some of them government, officials in other capacities, and they weren't inciting violence. They were saying things that I found inappropriate, some of them borderline racist, but they were not inciting violence. And so again, I think there has to be a clear distinction. There has to be a line that has to be drawn. And again, Mike Morath does not get to use his personal discomforts as a way to penalize school employees. They do not give up their First Amendment rights when they become employees. And again, I do believe in local control, and superintendents, school boards have the right to, act in the way that they see fit. And those very same teachers and school employees have access to due process to fight their case. And so again, I just think that a leader in this capacity should be doing what he can to turn the temperature down and bring people together and not further stir up, more discontent.
Democratic State Representative Lauren Ashley Simmons of Houston, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack.